While year-round gardening is a thing in the south, where I live, here in Zone 3B, 4A in eastern Canada, most people plant everything in late May or early June. Watch the weather carefully in June and August, always ready to cover and spray for frost, and then harvest it all before Labor Day. In earlier videos, I have played around with year-round gardening with varying degrees of success. What I've discovered is that while year-round gardening in my climate needs a lot of help in terms of cold frames, row covers, high tunnels, or even heated greenhouses, many cold-hardy plants can grow well into the fall with little to no protection at all and actually taste better after a frost. Hello, this is Stephen from Short Season Garden, and I offer tips and tricks for gardening in any climate, but especially for short seasons like here in Eastern Canada in Zone 3B, Zone 4A. So subscribe to my channel, give my video a thumbs up and a comment. You can check me out on Instagram or Facebook at Short Season Garden. We northern gardeners realize that our heat-loving tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, and many other favorites cannot stand any frost at all. I, for one, did not realize that many delicious vegetables do not fall into that category. True, I always knew that root crops such as carrots, beets, and rutabagas could take some cold. I did not realize that the mechanism these plants use to tolerate cold weather actually turns some of their starch into sugar, making them sweeter. And root crops are not the only crops that work this way. Many greens are very cold hardy as well. Gardeners who live in slightly milder climates than I do love to grow many of these crops throughout the winter months. I have learned by experience that what works well in zones 5 and 6 is more difficult in zones 3 and 4. However, just because year-round gardening is a lot of work and difficult to achieve, that doesn't mean that we can't garden well into the fall with very little effort. Spinach that is planted in the spring has a very short harvest window before bolting in summer's heat. However, if you plant that same spinach in July or August, it can be harvested well into the fall. While it looks very sad on a frosty morning, once the sun thaws it out, it is fine. I love to put it in my breakfast smoothie, fresh, or dehydrate it for later use. As well as my spinach, I found that my July planted radicchio, frost-hardy lettuce, and broccoli did much better as well. Someday I'm going to do a YouTube video just on bloopers. I made 2 major bloopers while preparing for this video. I carefully went down the row with my #1 camera, pointing out each plant as I meticulously harvested my radicchio, winter density, and rouge de verre lettuce, and then my broccoli. Unfortunately, the camera wasn't running. Luckily, my B-roll camera was running at least. Luckily, I also harvested most of my spinach, lettuce, and radicchio before the second accident happened. I had decided that since most of my garden was gone, my electric fence was no longer necessary. Unfortunately, the deer discovered my error and came at night for a succulent treat. Obviously, brassicas are not their favorite, since they did not touch the kale, the broccoli, or these bad boys. Okay, I left this till last. This is Brussels sprouts. Something new I planted this year. I don't know if you can see them down here. Now these bad boys, they're supposed to be good to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, so I'm not going to cover them up tonight. Now I've got a little secret to tell you. I don't like Brussels sprouts. In fact, I hate Brussels sprouts. And so I'm violating the first rule that we teach new gardeners in Gardening 101 is that only plant what you like, because if you don't like it, you're not going to eat it. But in fact, I hate Brussels sprouts so bad that if I want to make a New Year's resolution that I'm sure I'm not going to have any trouble keeping, I would make that resolution not to eat Brussels sprouts. But I've been told that if these, not only will they stand 20 degrees Fahrenheit, but the frost will actually make them sweeter and taste better. And I've also been told that there's recipes that will taste good. So we're going to find out. I'm going to leave these bad boys, and if they don't survive, well, I won't have to eat them, but maybe I'll be surprised, maybe I'll like them. Well, I put the Brussels sprouts to the test. I let them get multiple frosts. I let them get snowed on. On October 29th, the temperature dropped to -8 degrees Celsius, or about 18 degrees Fahrenheit. Some of the leaves on the plants were starting to look bedraggled, but the sprouts were fine. So I guess I tried. The snow and cold won't kill them. The deer won't eat them. So I guess I need to harvest them and try out my daughter's recipe. Obviously, these needed a little longer season than I gave them. There are a few good-sized sprouts, but many of them are tiny. I deliberately didn't start these plants indoors until June 12th. I set them out on July 3rd. I wanted to make sure they wouldn't be ready until late in the fall to give them the full test. It looks like I could have started them earlier. As my family suggested, my wife found a recipe on Pinterest for baking Brussels sprouts in the oven with lots of olive oil and Parmesan cheese, along with several other ingredients. The recipe called for 2 pounds of Brussels sprouts, which I probably would have had if I hadn't planted the sprouts so late. Because we couldn't follow the ingredients quantities exactly, and this was a new venture, the sprouts came out a little overdone. It was time to try them. Different. Not bad. So that definitely improves the Brussels sprouts. I still don't think it's my favorite, but they're definitely edible. So if you have any ideas, ways to cook Brussels sprouts, put it in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and we'll see you in the next video.